The book we're going to discuss today is The Dilemma of a Muslim Psychologist by the late Dr. Malik Badri. I mean, if you never read any Islamic book before, any article about Islamic psychology, Islamic healing, Islamic counseling, this is the good place to start. This book actually is based on really forthcoming, groundbreaking at that time, an article of late Dr. Badri. And he was talking about a dilemma of Muslim psychologists based on one hadith only, and that's actually how he titled this article, a Muslim therapist in Lizard Hall. So what he was referring to actually was the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he predicted the future of therapy, believe it or not. And he said that there will be a time when Muslims will blindly copy the ways of Christians and Jews, even if they manage to get themselves into lizard holes. All right, and that in 70s, that was a really brave thing to say. And even if you reflect on it from perspective of 21st century, you know, we are in 2022, it's still actually a phenomena that we're experiencing, unfortunately, until today. So what you can learn from this book is it's actually an invitation to critical analysis of psychology. It's a beautiful invitation to all of you psychologists over there to learn how to criticize psychology from the Islamic ethos perspective. So what Dr. Badri, he propagated is the self-awareness of a counselor or a therapist or psychologist or psychotherapist as a Muslim. And he sort of actually suggested to do it on two levels. The first level is self-developmental level. And at the end of his book, he sort of gave 3 levels of every Muslim therapist that they will definitely go through. Some of them, they will be stuck on some of those levels. So just bear with me a second. If you know anything about nafsiyat, meaning the development, the self-development on the level of the nafs, then you notice that there is that jump from amara to lawama and mutma'inna. And the same thing, in the same manner, Dr. Malik Badri, he presented to us that when you become a therapist, when you're a Muslim and you become therapist, you graduated, you're sort of experiencing the temptation of a halo effect of being an expert. That's literally what he said in his book. And I decided to quote it for you because I think it's such a spot on. So, you know, you being taken away by desires of the prestige. It's that really beautiful moment when you graduated, you're going into practice, you experiencing respect, and you rebuilding your ego, you rebuilding your self-esteem, if that is the case. Now, the second stage on the level of lawama, what Dr. Malik Badri described beautifully in his book, is that you sort of awakening to the fact that something doesn't really sit here with those theories, those materialistic secular theories. You know, you bring in Quran to the session, you're sitting down with the Muslim client only, and you're sort of, you know, contemplating on the seerah of the Prophet, maybe other prophets, but you're still sort of based in the mainstream way of working. You still sort of following that agenda, but it's somehow you do feel better, you do feel more aligned with what your heart is telling you, and that is your fitra. And on the later stage, you deciding, and I make dua here for all of our Muslim therapists to decide to go there and stay there, you're deciding that you are Muslim first and therapist second. On that stage, you're recognizing that what you're doing here in this clinical setting is only a role. You're playing a role. This is actually your platform to leave some sadaqah jariyah. Yes, by supporting your family financially. Yes, by growing as a soul, as a person as well. but also for most, if anything else, you are, following the prophetic footsteps of prophets like Islam by helping others. And this is the healthiest stage, because you are completely immersed and proud in being a Muslim. And then secondly of all, you just giving respect and hug to the job that you're doing. And that's a massive shift, as you can imagine. So I wanted to spend some time on that, just to emphasize to you how important that is. Because I know for a fact that you as a client, when you go out there and you are being treated by Muslim clients, by Muslim therapists, not always they're going to be Islamic therapists, and you sometimes are going to be disappointed, and that is the reason. It's all actually a science right now. And what are the prescriptions in the dilemma of Muslim psychologists to prevent yourself from being stuck as a therapist? Well, Dr. Malik Badri actually encourages all the academics and all the clinicians to use their brain, in a sense, re-evaluating and critically looking at the origin of research. So what I mean by that is that we have to learn to see the science for what it is, that the results of the tests and hypotheses, they actually not always replicable. They not free from subjectivity. They sometimes are very often unreliable. They have vague psychological or psychometric tests. Actually, they're not replicable, and it's very easy to disqualify them on the basis that that they actually claim that they are free from the, from the biases. And accordingly to Dr. Malik Badri, it is complete untrue, it's complete nonsense, because you cannot critically examine or disqualify the fact that you have a belief system as a researcher, and you are culturally bounded when you're making assumptions about your results. So I just to give you an example, when I was learning how to do my research, my supervisor, she was really surprised to see how my research group, and they were at that point Muslim therapists, they sort of all think about their work from the perspective of religion, from the perspective of Quran, from the perspective of Sunnah. Whereas to me, where I was standing was like, yeah, well, obviously we do. Whether we work with Muslims or not Muslims, we still are the same people. We still invested in our congruence. So as much as we have rights to do it as a people of faith, the same thing for people who are culturally banded and not necessarily religiously banded. So that will have a huge impact on how data is interpreted. And then Dr. Badri, he goes into explaining that, we have to also be very honest about the fact that the transference of patterns from birds or pets and monkeys to humans is not really accurate, and that is actually a case, especially in a behavioral psychology. And then Dr. Badri, he sort of invited us to remember to re-educate ourselves in the studies of the history of great healers such as Ghazali, Qayyim, Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, and the story goes on, because they are actually the foundations of psychology as we know it, especially Islamic psychology as we know it. So the critical evaluation, remembering of your past, but also changing your perceptions as well. We need to educate ourselves, as I mentioned, and remember that Islamic concepts of human nature, they are different to what secularism actually invites us in.